Huh. Let's hope the food's better in this joint. Hey guys, JamesMC Reviews here. Welcome to another TV log. If you couldn't tell from the backdrop, I'm in Florida visiting friends and family, so you probably won't get this video until after I come back next week. But I wanted to talk to you briefly about Ms. Marvel. This is the new Marvel Disney Plus show that introduces us to Kamala Khan, a teenage girl in New Jersey who is dealing with typical teenage girl in New Jersey things. Overbearing parents, religious and cultural pressures, friends, bullies, crushes, all that fun stuff. But everything changes when she finds a magical bracelet, puts it on, and gains superpowers. From there, all sorts of things happen. The damage control guys from No Way Home are trying to intercept her because they think she's a danger to the city. And she also gets picked up by this group called the Clandestines, ancient beings from another dimension who claim to have ties to Kamala and her past, when really they just want to take over the world. So Kamala has to, okay, if I'm being honest, I don't really know what the end goal for Kamala is in this show, or really what the point of this series was. It's no secret that the general audience has not been kind to this show, whether it comes to its viewership, its reviews. Like, this is one of the lowest ranked MCU shows that has come out so far. I think there are a few contributing factors to that. One, I hate to admit it, but I think the Marvel fatigue is finally settling in for a lot of people, myself included. Not so much with the movies. The movies, like, yeah, there are a lot of them, but they still manage to, like, space it out and, like, build up enough hype for them. But with the TV shows, it's just kind of become a chore. Because, I mean, they don't do, like, the Netflix formula where they drop all the episodes at once. You can binge it or watch it at your own pace, and then it's a couple, like, weeks or a couple months until the next one. It's, you know, 6 to 10 weeks of episodes, and then, like, 2-week break, and then another 6 to 10 weeks of episodes, sometimes with a movie released in between. And it's just kind of become exhausting. And that whole need to, like, feed the Marvel content juggernaut has kind of caused them to slip in quality recently. This show is pretty bad. Like, it's kind of amazing that they let any of this by kind of bad. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some things that the show does well, so I'm gonna say some lovely, nice, positive things at the beginning, and then I'm gonna rip it apart at the end. Starting off with the positives, though, Iman Vellani is this show. I am almost positive that she's gonna have back problems when she grows up, because she has just carried this entire show on her shoulders. Admittedly, when she was first cast, I was like, I don't know if she'll be able to handle it. This is her first major role. She hasn't really done anything. Can she carry a show? And now, after having finished the entire season, God, I hope she sticks around. She is so good. And to clarify, I know fuck all about Ms. Marvel. Like, the only thing that I know about her backstory and her character is, like, the bare minimum that I played of her in the Avengers video game. So, but going into this with fresh eyes and seeing her performance, she is just completely captivating. It's like they took the entire MCU fandom, crushed them down into one person, and then made them a superhero. She is just so entertaining to watch. She's so charismatic and so funny and snarky. It's just so, like, infectious to see her, like, fangirling out about shit. It's really cool, and it almost gives me, like, Peter Parker energy. Like, when he was first introduced into the MCU, and he was just so, like, wide-eyed and, like, just so excited about just being there and being a superhero. Like, it gives off those sort of vibes. I also really like the connection with Kamala's family. Like, I think all those actors did a really good job. I wasn't super crazy about them at first, because I'm like, oh, the stereotypical, like, overbearing parent cliche. But I'm like, you know, there's a reason why it's a cliche, because, you know, these situations definitely happen. And I imagine with, you know, ethnic parents, it's, you know, a lot more, it's not as much of a reach for, you know, your parents to be like overprotective and, you know, concerned about their kids being off in fantasy land and like not knowing what they want to do with their lives and stuff like that. But I also like that the parents aren't just one note. Like, once they've discovered her being a superhero, I like that they are so supportive of her, and the mom even like makes her new costume and everything like that. That whole first episode was fantastic. Like, I honestly think that that might be like one of the best like premiere episodes for an MCU Disney Plus show in a while. Like, it was just so much fun. It was super stylized. It had a real like Scott Pilgrim feel to it, where like whenever they're showing like a Kamala fantasy sequence, like it's super like exaggerated. You see like stuff in the background, like animated graffiti drawings or like texts like popping up in the background and stuff like that. Like, that's really cool, and I honestly wish that the show had kept that sort of style, because it gave the show, you know, its own sense of personality rather than just having it look like every other MCU series. And of course, the thing that everyone is talking about with this show is the Muslim representation and the Pakistani representation, which, I mean, I am no authority to, you know, comment on, you know, how they represented, what they got right, what they got wrong, because, you know, I am the least Pakistani person that you will see on the internet. But I mean, like, ultimately, I am really glad, like, if there's any reason for this show to exist, I am glad that it's for the positive, you know, Muslim representation, as opposed to the stereotypical, like, negative shit that they have to deal with. I love the focus on community. I love, you know, the cultures being showcased. It has to be inspiring, and, you know, I can see where, you know, the few positive reviews that have come from this show, I can see, you know, it definitely stemming from the representation. So as I said, the first episode was really good, but as the show goes on, it starts to get less and less and less in quality. Partially because I don't think the show really knew what it wanted to be. It's got kind of the same problem that Hawkeye did, where it just introduced like so many like plot threads, but it didn't know how to like balance it all. Like, first you think it's gonna be like this like random coming of age story and stuff like that, with Kamala in high school trying to like figure out her powers and everything like that. But then like it turns into this like sort of No Way Home type of thing with damage control, and then the clandestines show up, and it starts to grow more and more into, you know, Kamala figuring out her past and learning her powers and everything. And then there are like talks of like this alternate dimension and everything like that, and how they need to get back to their home and everything like that. And then they disappear, and then it goes back to the damage control stuff again. Like, it just felt like really disconjoined and unfocused, and you never really found yourself caring about what was going on. Like, none of the threats were compelling. I didn't find the clandestines threatening foes, like, at all. I didn't even really understand what their plan was and like what their whole end goal was. I didn't really find the damage control shit that like threatening either. Like, I get why they're there, because, you know, hey, look, racism, but like it's like still, it's not like a compelling threat. Also, I don't know what the budget for this show was, but the visual effects were pretty not good. Like, I mean, that is when you can actually see them. Like, they got really lazy with this show, and I don't know why. Like, there will be moments where, you know, Kamala is using her powers, and instead of like she'll be like running off on these like platforms, but instead of actually showing her, they'll just show a character's like reaction, like looking at her running off. And when they do actually like show her powers, they look like kind of bad. Like I mean, they already changed her powers from what they were, because like right in the show, she can do like these crystally purple like shields and like things like that, kind of like Green Lantern. Whereas in the comics and like the Avengers game, she can actually like extend her arms and make giant fists, kind of like Mr. Fantastic. But like, I mean, if the effects are gonna look like this cheap anyway, like, you might as well like actually like show them. Like, did they just blow all of their Marvel money on WandaVision and Loki? Like, is that why the effects look the way that they do? The biggest problem with this series, though, comes from the ending, where, spoiler alert, Kamala's friend Bruno, the guy who is constantly, he spends the whole series trying to break out of the friend zone, talks to her and he's like, hey, I was looking in your like genetic code to see if like your other siblings could get powers and everything, and I found something inside of you that's kind of different, like a mutation. And then you hear like a bit of the, like a stinger of the X-Men theme. So this show basically confirms that Kamala Khan is the first mutant. And this just opens up a whirlwind of problems. For one, not only, like I said, I don't know much about Kamala Khan, but I do know for a fact that she has not ever been involved with the X-Men. At the beginning of the show, they made it very clear that the powers came from the bracelet and nothing else. And I mean, if you want to argue that like, oh, like her powers could have always been inside of her and it just took the bracelet, you know, to unlock it. Okay, fair enough, but like, that's also, like, not only is that not really how mutant powers work, but like, the main clandestine lady and Kamala's extended family, and also the hot clandestine boy that she meets early on in the series, they all have that same power set. And like, I from what I remember from the X-Men movies, they make it clear that mutant powers aren't inherited, and like, even if you have like similarities, it's like different for each person. So basically all they're doing here is just screwing up with the continuity just to get a shortcut to the X-Men. And you know what? That would be fine if it didn't completely invalidate the rest of the series. Like, the whole like series beforehand, they've been like building up like that her powers are like unique and that this is how they came to be, and like she inherited them from her mom and everything like that. And it was this specific race from this specific like alternate dimension and everything like that. But like, if they were gonna make it mutants anyway, like, what the fuck was the point of the rest of the series? Miss Marvel, long story short, was pretty disappointing. Like, especially considering the first episode started off so strong, the way that it just completely devolved is pretty disheartening, especially since Aman Vellani and all the actors, like, they acted their hearts out and they all did great and they deserve a better show than this. Yeah, I think this might be the first like major dud of the TVlogs so far. And it's a real shame, but you know what? At least we have She-Hulk coming in August. That's gonna be great, right? But yeah, like I said, there were some things about Miss Marvel that I liked and appreciated, but overall, it was a bit of a mess. So, going to my ranking, I would have to give Miss Marvel a 2 out of 5. But anyway, that does it for this video. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of Miss Marvel, if you watched it. What do you think is going to happen next? We saw the post-credit scene with Brie Larson and everything. So how do you think this is going to factor into the Marvels coming out next year? Let me know all that stuff down below. Until next time, be sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell so you can stay up to date on when I'm posting. Follow me on all my social media, subscribe to my main channel. Everything you need to know will be in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later.